What is up, everyone? It's Monday again, so we have another Monday metagame update, and quite a few interesting things happened this weekend, so let's check it out. Alrighty, starting us off, so first of all, we had a pro tour in Chicago this last weekend. The format was draft and pioneer, but they also had a standard tournament, and so there was some results here from the Chicago standard tournament. And the top decks were kind of interesting. There's a Sultai ramp, Demir midrange, and of course Azorius control did quite well also. But interesting thing is the Sultai ramp deck is pretty much a brand new deck. You've got some mill, Jace, you have Aftermath, Analyst, Nissa, Slowgurk, Atraxa, Urtai, Celestis, Splendid Reclamation, and a few other removal cards. So basically you're like milling yourself some, and you're trying to get some lands in your graveyard, and then you can use the Splendid Reclamation to ramp yourself. And also you have a bunch of good effects that want to have lands in the graveyard and do stuff with lands in the graveyard. So you can like trigger your Slowgurk and things like that. But also you eventually you're gonna get to your Traxa mana, and also for each like permanent that's in your graveyard, your Terror Tide is gonna do a big sweeper for you. So just a kind of interesting synergies with the graveyard, not super heavily on the mill plan, but enough that you want to get a little bit in your graveyard to get things going. So pretty cool, to be honest. And I'm really surprised it got first place, but yeah, props to this person. They made it there, and with a pretty interesting deck. And next up, oh, I wanted to mention this other person also playing a very somewhat similar type deck. I guess it's a little bit different now that I look at it, but um, they mentioned that they were playing Slowgurk, another Slowgurk deck, so that's why I grouped it in here. But this one is a Legends deck using Relic of Legends. I actually really like that. I thought Relic of Legends would be a pretty good card when it first came out, and it saw some fringe play, but nothing super amazing. But now we just have so many Legends that maybe it's time for it to come back. Definitely seems like it could be. So that's pretty sweet, and using it to get out your Thip here, and your Lazav, of course, can turn into anything. Well, I don't know. It's a little bit crazy, but look at that win rate result. You can't really argue with that. The deck seems to be pretty bussin'. All right, moving on, we have the second place in the tournament was this Demir midrange, and pretty standard, but I just wanted to point out that Lazav here is making a lot of ground in these Demir decks. Seems that it is very good, as I thought. Lazav looked pretty strong, and it is showing that it is. And it works great with your Shieldred and your Eklazards and stuff like that to transform into those things. So yeah, just makes sense that would fit in the Demir deck. So no surprise there. And then I want to point this one out. This was, I believe, fourth place in the tournament, so not third, but still pretty good. And this is kind of the Squirming Emergence deck that we've seen kind of cropping up. Was popular last standard, but not super great. But now it's doing much better. And it got a few updates to it, mostly in the form of this one creature. If I can find it, Steamcore Scholar, which is a 3 mana 2/2 Flying Vigilance, which draws 2 and then lets you discard 2. So you can fill your graveyard to, turn on your Squirming Emergence, find your lands if you need it, that kind of stuff. And what else did we get? That might mostly be it. Did get the lands, which are pretty big. The Undercity Sewer, the Dream Root. No, not that one. Underground Mortuary. So all these Surveil lands. We have a few of them here. Hedge Maze, Surveil lands. So gives you some early game ways to fill your graveyard without, like even though it's a tap land, fixes your mana for the Squirming, and it lets you fill the graveyard. So it's pretty much a win-win there, and really helps the deck be more solid. So yeah, pretty cool deck. I've been trying to play some of this recently. It felt pretty good, but I still sometimes have consistency issues with the mana, but maybe I can yoink this person's mana base and be much happier. So we'll see. Moving on, there is quite a few blue-white decks in standard besides the control deck. This is a mid-range one with Cryptic Cloak that is doing well. And then here's another version of the blue-white deck that's doing very well. It's pretty similar, but this one has Doorkeeper Thrall in it, which is kind of, it's interesting to add. Flying, flash flying has a pretty good effect that stops ETBs, but of course it will stop your own ETBs. But maybe the opponent's going to have more, so you don't care. And then this interesting deck also came up, this mono black Vein deck, Vein Ripper deck. So we got to see the deck list here, and it is pretty spicy, I will admit. Deep Cavern Bat, of course. Fanatic Offering, interesting. Go for the Throw, Edict, Cold Iron Bloodcaster, Gix. So those are all pretty standard. Preacher of the Schism, pretty standard. Archfiend of Dross, okay, nice. Bloodletter of Aclazots, also nice. We got some Deadly Cover-Ups, and then we have 3 of the Vein Rippers. So basically, just seems like it's a mono black aggro deck that you just want to play on curve. You want to make your land drops, and then each of your card has pretty good value in and of itself, so you don't mind if the opponent kills them. And probably they're gonna feel like like the opponent probably feels like, oh, I gotta kill this Cavern Bat. Oh, I gotta kill this Gix. Oh, I gotta kill this Schism. And then by the time you get to your big boys, they can't kill it anymore, basically. So, yeah, that's pretty sweet. But I don't really see any way that they're cheating out this. So basically, you just gotta 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 6 mana. Hope you get there and don't have too many big creatures in your hand in the beginning. But I like to see it. It's a deck people aren't really playing. It's doing quite well, 66% win rate, which is pretty impressive. All right, next up, oh yeah, I mean Azorius Control is still very good. This is, I think, the version that most people have kind of somewhat settled on, though this one took a few liberties. They cut some of the sweepers and put in Archangel Elspeth and some Sunset Revelries. Most of the time I see people playing at least 8 sweepers in the deck, but I think a lot of people have decided on 4 3-mana temporary lockdowns is kind of needed in the format, especially in best of 1 to deal with the Convoke and the mono red decks. So yep, that's pretty standard. I tried blue-white control out a bit. I didn't have that much success with it, but I wasn't running 4 lockdowns, so maybe I'll have to try this version or a similar version than this one. But No More Lies, of course, felt very good. But you still feel like, you can lose pretty easily to a bad, like if the opponent's on the Convoke deck and they get a pretty good start, you can easily just die. So I don't know what you can really do about that. It's pretty rough. And then Brew Lab here played upon the Reenact the Crime deck that I can't say that I created. I mean, I created a version of it that came from me, but other people at the same time made similar decks. So, but Brew Lab has their own version here with Bitter Triumph and Deadly Cover Up. And I actually really like this version a lot. I saw a lot of people immediately like jump to Sultai, try to do Squirming Emergent stuff, or they went super heavy on like the 3 drops. But I think you still need a good number of 2 drop. So having 3 Rona, 3 Vohar seems pretty appropriate. And then the Kaito, also really like the Kaito. And yeah, so this looks really cool to me. Maybe I'll have to try it out. Try this version. They went 5-1 in Mythic, so definitely not shabby. And finally, we have a historic deck. This is Abzan Convoke Yawgmoth deck. A little bit crazy, but I mean, a lot of it's normal. Golden Goose makes sense. Young Wolf makes sense, but some of these new other ones I don't know at all. Ropeline Attendant, Avacyn's Pilgrim. Court of Calling, of course, is good, but I've never seen a 4 of in the Yawgmoth deck for Court of Calling. Yeah, Eldritch Evolution, also another pretty common one. But yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So it's a little bit different version, but of course, Yawgmoth is super busted in, especially in Historic, so makes sense. And they went 52-0. Crazy. That's crazy. So if you're playing Historic, check this one out. This is kind of a new deck that seems to be pretty impressive, to say the least. All right, that's it for the Monday metagame update. Hope you saw some brews that you are interested in trying out, and you go out there and have some fun. And until next time, see ya.